having trouble? Say his name and he appears. Welcome to the weekly armchair kickoff, folks. Yes, I did it, Reece. So be it. So, we are joined by... Reece, are you okay there? Yes, I went there.
I'm fine.
Yes, I went there. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are here. We are here for the Brighton preview, and I am joined by Reece of the Weekly Steel Chair, Mark, and our new woman at the reins, Amy. How are y'all, lads?
Good.
I'm used to being in control by a woman at work, so this is not new to me.
And this sets the tone for the evening.
In a positive sense, of course. So this will be fun. It's no sheep devil, but it'll certainly be more fun than that. Yeah, I went there as well. I went there too.
I had to beat you to the punch and getting one over anyway. But anyway, so
I've just double battle.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm gonna get killed after this show. I'm gonna be expecting a FaceTime after this show.
This just sets the tone for the evening. I'm sorry, but look, we are here to talk about Brighton, but we will start with our afterthoughts of the Fulham game. Mark, I'm going to start with you because the rest of us are bumbling idiots here. How did you think, or how did you feel we performed against Fulham, and do you find that there's any room to improvement?
I think there's massive room. Okay, you can hear me first of all, yeah?
Yeah, I'm all good.
Yeah, perfect, yeah. No, I think there's massive room for improvement, but I was just delighted to get the 3 points on the board and, get that monkey off our back, as per se, because we haven't went into the last few seasons, really, on top of things, particularly, obviously, last year and that with the Wolves game, I thought as a whole we played much better than the squad. It's obviously different in regards to the starting lineup as last year, as per se. But yeah, delighted to get the 3 points on the board, and hopefully we can progress in regards to tomorrow. Still, obviously, a lot of work to do, and players coming back from international duty and that. But ultimately, again, like I keep referencing, 3 points on the board, and that's what you wanted and what you realistically expected.
No, because I suppose you look at the whole defensive structure. Like, I thought we actually didn't do half as bad. No, last night, there was a stat that I heard the other day that we were still the team that conceded the most direct attacks on goal, but at the same time, we came away with a clean sheet. We came away with 3 points. Amy, do you feel there's a sign that the defensive side of things is going to improve, or how is this going to turn out?
Yeah, I do 100%. Obviously, myself and Keane were at the game on Friday night. And, I thought Maguire played brilliant. But now you're adding Delitt into the mix. And you're also adding Mazraoui as well, who also showed glimpses of what he's absolutely capable of. I thought he was absolutely magnificent on Friday. But yeah, 100%. And now, potentially, in front of them, you're also adding Ugarte.
Yeah.
So, absolutely, I think, as well as what Mark said, I think there's absolutely room for improvement. But also, we've improved our backline too. I know we got rid of Varane, and we thought Varane was an absolute warhorse. Unfortunately, injuries got the better of him most of the time. But you're adding Delitt back in as well. And Martinez is back from injury. And, I feel like we're going to have a solid backline, in my opinion.
And actually, just seeing in the comments there, that Ahmed's mother has unfortunately passed away, so we will extend our condolences to Ahmed's family and everything. Look, hopefully it's not a great time for anyone to have someone they love pass away. So look, all we can do is extend our condolences to them. Just on the note of any stand-up players, like Ahmed himself actually didn't play too badly. I felt anyway across the game last night. Reece, have you anyone to add? Because I was going to add Mason Mount for off the ball work, he was fantastic. I felt last night.
Anything have I got to add? No, I said plenty.
No.
Less is more. What I said last week is enough. If I say
No,
any more, I will be. If I say any more, I will be in trouble. But I second the comments on Maguire especially, and sadness for Ahmad. But that pretty much confirms he will not be involved tomorrow. Then, so that and rightly so. If he is involved, then I'll be quite surprised.
No, I was just going
to be honest. I thought Mount played a big part in the game last Friday. Like, there's probably some stuff that you didn't see on TV, but he was pressing their midfield hard and he was creating problems.
I find his positioning weird though. Like, I find it weird. Like, I don't like playing Fernandez in the false 9 role if you play Mount right behind him. That makes no sense. What's the point in playing 2 10s? One is a false 9, the other is a whatever the fuck he was meant to be. Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah. No, but he was creating problems for Fulham, so...
Yeah, he was. I just think if you're going to play one of them, then you play one of them. If you're going to play both, then they should be... One of them should be in the midfield, or one of them should be out wide. But if you're both playing them in a central position, one's playing the 10 role, the other playing as a striker, it doesn't work. I mean, it's great that we're pressing the ball and all that, and I'm fine with that. But that's kind of what proves what I was saying a week ago when I said that we really are needing an extra midfielder. Ugarte is a great signing, but there's more to it than meets the eye. But I think the biggest thing for me is, will we make another move for another midfielder? I'm hoping that the Brighton game will add to it and we go for it. I'm getting sick and tired of these fucking comments. Trevor, I've got no issue with human beings, right? But I'm starting to develop one. Right. I hate the little bastard called Dan James. I wish he was never signed for that football club. He belongs in a Leeds shirt because he's a cunt. End of.
Again, like, the first couple of minutes of the podcast really just set the tone for the evening, didn't it?
Honest to God, that will never end.
But I was going to kind of bring this forward as, like, we talk about needing a midfielder outside of Ugarte. That's up for debate in any sense. But going on the left back scenario, like, we've been probably talking to the hilt across numerous podcasts about our left back scenario in the last couple of weeks. But in the short term, and I've heard a lot of different podcasts talk about this in last week, does Dano and Mesroy actually solve the left back scenario on that short term basis? Do we need to get a Sergio Reguilon where we're signing someone until January until we can see how this actually pans out? And Mark, I'm going to start with you again on that one.
I don't know. I think there was a few muted responses through the media about the likes of Ben Chilwell and that, considering he's one of them players that look to be offloaded at Chelsea. But again, you're just you're literally adding fuel to an already identifiable problem in the sense of our left back scenario over the past several years. It's one of them. Shaw's never going to be fit. Tyrell Malacia, his injury record wasn't substantial prior to coming to Manchester United when I was looking over it. So obviously whatever's at the happen, he fell off the face of the earth. But to answer your question in the short term, I think no, because realistically, the two of them are right-footed, don't get me wrong, very good progressive fullbacks, and Mazraoui played very, very well last week. However, I just don't see in the long term. And what would you do short term? I just don't know. I'm kind of clutching at straws with that one. Because realistically, if you want to stem into the market, which Manchester United don't look like they're going to do from a left back perspective, unless I'm undeniably wrong by the end of the transfer market, and we're only looking at midfielders, well then, I don't know. I wouldn't know. What would I take Reguilon back? I would on a short-term basis, based on the fact that, I thought, I didn't really see him having a bad game, I suppose, for Manchester United. But at the same time, he's one of them players who, he's just a stalwart in the sense of he's not really a bad player, but he's just, is he going to be the answer? Definitely not. But we need someone with a left foot that can play left back. And I don't like seeing Martinez in there when he was, he's just, I want them to play centre half. I want them to play there. Oh, you just would need obviously a quick, dynamic left-footed fullback, and unfortunately, from our standpoint, there isn't a multitude of them. And that's the truth of it,
No,
ironically, we had two. We had two. One the manager binned, and the other didn't even consider playing last week. I would have been Luke Shaw last summer, like I said. I would have been Luke Shaw last summer. I'd have kept Alvaro Fernandez, and then the way Harry Amas has improved himself, I would have had him as his backup, because Tyrone Malacia is never going to prove himself at this football club. I'd bin him next summer as well. Like, I would find a more senior left back, and I keep Harry Amas and just run with it.
That's it. Like, in regards to Harry Amas, sorry if I going across you, Darragh. Like, if it's a case where realistically he's at the showing his work during pre-season, which we all agree he had, like, very good substantial gains, particularly the likes of against Arsenal and that. Agreed. I would be like, okay, like a short-term gap if that's what you wanted to do, and then realistically, like, weigh it all on him and say this could be your spot for the next decade. Realistically, providing obviously we can keep him fit, because he's such a good player, honest to God. From what I've seen of him.
No, I was really impressed with how I saw how he came across in pre-season as well, because he looks to be molding himself into that ideal left back role. But like, even
I'd use the cup games for him. I'd use the Carabao Cup games and maybe the early rounds of the FA Cup that we come into and see if he can get in there. And I think if he can prove himself there, then I don't see a problem with him being in the first team from next summer onwards. Especially, I think that's the aim of the club by the looks of it. We're never going to have a class of 92 again. We're not going to have 6 or 7 players come through at once. That's a rarity. Like, you don't see the other clubs that buy into youth players. Like, you're not going to see Ajax promote 7 or 8 world class and potential players in the future anymore. It's going to be 1 or 2. Barcelona have just found an amazing gem in that Lamine Yamal, who was the best young player at the Euros by a fucking distance. But when you look at it, they're not going to do the same again. It's going to be sporadic, and I think this season it's probably going to be Toby Collier, who was, for me, our best player in pre-season. Harry Amas was probably our second best player in my opinion. Last year it was Kobe Manu. The year before it was Garnacho. I think we're trying to get, if we can get 2 in each year, then we will. If not, it's going to be 1, but it's got to be the right one. And I think the looks of it, this is the way it is. You've got to get the right mold of how you can get and who you cannot get. And I think if we get 1 or 2 each season, I'll be happy with that. But I don't think you're going to see 5 or 6 like that again, because that was rare. Even like in any like footballing nation, like, it's very rare happened again. When was the last time that happened? Even in, I don't know, Spain or Germany, it doesn't happen as much anymore.
And actually, Amy, I'll bring this question to you because it's actually a very interesting one to think about. Billy says here in the comments, we again are too high in numbers in some positions and low in others. Once Ugarte signs, we're a centre back high, and with Lick now a centre back high. Who would you settle in all those positions? Like, I mean, we've talked about in numerous occasions who could be sold and who should be sold, and I just want we can probably guess who you're going to mention. However, who are the centre backs and who are centre mids that could potentially still go?
Don't start, Reece.
I don't know what we said there. I don't know what we said there.
Not at all, no.
I think the centre back position, I think the obvious choice here is Lindelof. I think the way Maguire has played towards the end of last season, and obviously seen him in the first game of the season, it's going to be hard for Lindelof to try and integrate himself back into the team again, especially now with the signing of De Ligt as well. Regarding the midfield, that's a difficult one because you're in a position where for years Ollie played McTominay as a defensive midfielder when he's not a defensive midfielder. So realistically, we have McTominay as a box-to-box midfielder, and then we have Casemiro as a DM. So if we bring in Ugarte, we're at a position where McTominay is probably not going to get played with Manu there. But at the same time, you're thinking, Casemiro isn't going to be able to play 2 games a week. So this is where Ugarte comes in. So I think the obvious choice here is McTominay, as much as it kills me to say it.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be McTominay, yeah.
Yeah, like, cause, I was going to make the point that Ericsson is being offered to Ajax by reputable sources, apparently. So
5 million they're wanting.
I actually forgot about Ericsson. Yeah, Ericsson too.
Yeah, but like that's what I'm saying. If we manage to sell McTominay and Ericsson, are we then therefore a centre mid short? Going by Billy's question, then, or are we at a sufficient rate?
Yeah, I'd keep McTominay then over Ericsson. I actually forgot about Ericsson.
Oh, that's fair. Because I was going to say,
Yeah.
I would let go of both if we then invested in another midfielder. But the question is, are we going to then sign? I've said for too long in our group chats that we are really missing a deeper player, like that can play up similar ball to Ericsson, but can actually move. And I don't want anyone to mention the bloody Dutchman that chose a club who's riddled with debt than ours, because he is an absolute clown. I do not want him anywhere near this club. But a great example is literally a player that Arsenal have just signed, even though he's 27. That's Mikel Moreno. So, like, would you go for a Zubamendi from Sociedad as well? I would personally, but we're not going to, because they're not going to splash the cash on him. But if we do move on, like, if we were to move on McTominay and Ericsson, I would try and go for a deeper player. At least we've got one, and you've got Menu. Ugarte, we know we'll sign him properly next year anyway. That's a foregone conclusion. But it allows Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes to be properly rotated between the number 10 position as well. Instead of burning one out, the other gets 10, 15 minutes, is labelled an English fraud, and then it doesn't work. When actually Mason Mount isn't that bad a player. He's just never really shown what he can do in a United shirt, because when he has played, it's never really been the right type of opponent for him. And I think that's always been the biggest problem. But that's what I would hope we would look for if we move the two of them on.
No, I was going to say the fact that we were going to talk a little bit more about Ugarte and the imminent announcements, because no doubt here we go is going to come at any point, whether it be like tomorrow, anytime over across the weekend. But I suppose we can touch on the basis there that with Ugarte coming in, how it means for Casemiro. Like Amy, you kind of touched on it there, where it can be seen as I'd want to be using the word rotary squad player for someone of Casemiro's standard, or of his caliber, shall I say, more than his standard, because his standard has dropped of recent times. But even with our stubborn manager liking to put his best 11 out, even against the weaker opponents, is this an opportunity for Casemiro to get a game once a week where he's actually able to be rotated properly? Because we kind of saw that last year. He was massively exposed because he just decided to sit back in front of the back four like he'd done in his first season at the club. So, anything is possible. Like, Mark, do you want to come in on that? Because like, it's the fact that with Casemiro, we know his legs aren't there. Is there any way out for him, or is it a case of cash in when you can?
I would have, if like, it's a strange one for me, because I would have always answered, particularly towards the end of the last season, that I would have moved them on and got them off the wage bill if that's the case where like Ineos realistically want to diminish such, finances outwards. And if you ask me now, would I move them on if it's a case where you're going to reinvest the money? I obviously personally would, considering that's what I was suggesting towards the end of last year. I again think there's such an ignorance towards him from the coaching staff. I know that might be, it might be a blasé comment, but realistically, even at times, if we had fit centre halves last year, and it seemed like we were depleted, at times he's playing centre half, I was nearly more or less to get him in the squad. It seems like he's like undroppable. And don't get me wrong, we're all again probably in agreement. Like again towards the end of last year, it seems like his legs are gone. Now again, look, he's come into the season. Particularly obviously the first game, and it seems like he's had to trim it down and looking after himself over the summer period. But again, that doesn't mean to say that in the more like the upcoming games, the likes of your Liverpool started at September, etc., when they have like dynamic midfielders, well, to an extent, but that can get around them, and basically that's when you're going to be like, you'll judge him more so on them games where he'll get run across. That's where, like, ironically, our midfield seems to be like, there seems to be a gap where Mainu seems to be covering, particularly with the two of them playing that position. Like at times, particularly in the games that I was at, where I was seeing the two of them in the middle of the park, Mainu at times was basically giving him instruction, ironically, where it should be the opposite way around realistically. So, if it was up to me, I'd move him on, get him out the wage bill. Don't get me wrong; he's been a great servant for Man United over the past 2 years or so. But I think there's this point in time where you'd say to yourself, "What's the trajectory?" I know I can't really get that word out properly, but what trajectory? What do you realistically want to do with him? Like, do you want to, like, you'll have him playing another season, and you'll lose more value on him. You're still putting X amount of money out from a wage bill perspective per week. Why can't we just reinvest the money, move him on potentially to Saudi, and then, because I don't see what you're going to do with him at the end of next year. If he's still there by that time. So, but then again, you never know what's going on in Ten Hag's head, because he obviously, set his cards out, considering he started them last week. Not to suggest that the man shouldn't have started, but, it was a strong enough team based on the squad members that we had fit. So I'd move him on, but as well as that, if you don't move him on, what realistically are you going to do with him? You're depleting the value.
Yeah, and that's a valid point. And actually, just kind of to bring it forward, I'm going to ask the man of 1,000 clubs, shall I call him, Reece. You obviously watch more football than half of us. Yes, Reece, we love you too. But with the imminent announcement of Manuel Ugarte to United, I personally haven't seen much of him. I've said this on my own socials. I haven't seen much outside of the odd PSG game and the highlights of the Copa America. I'll be completely honest. So with the man of 1,000 clubs, Reece, have you any better insight than me as to what we can expect from Ugarte? Because looking at it, it looks like the fact that he kind of, from what I see anyway, he sits in front of the back four, kind of like the way that Casemiro did in 22-23. Is it that kind of similarity, or am I looking at it in the wrong way?
No, you are looking at it in the right way. The only difference, obviously, is the age factor, but it's more or less the difference of experience. Now, obviously, Casemiro is more highlighted by two clubs in particular, and obviously that's Real Madrid and Man United. So you can see the difference in quality that he's had to assert himself with. Whereas Ugarte has been around several clubs now, and the biggest club theoretically he's actually been at is PSG. When you look at it, they are the biggest club in France currently, even though they're a waste of space.
Yes.
But when he's actually played, though, he played less games for PSG, but he still had the most tackles in the league by the end of the season, which is hilarious. And this is a team that dominates 60-70% possession of the ball, and he finished with at least 60 tackles per game.
Jesus, okay.
Which is mental. So you're looking at a midfielder who is tenacious on the ball, aggressive, but you also got to bear in mind that for international level, who he's being coached by as well. Like, he's being coached by Marcelo Bielsa as well. So he's got somebody who will make him run and make him work harder than he already is. So you've got somebody with that extra work ethic of an Enrique at club level, plus Bielsa at international level for Uruguay. So you're getting a mixture of both in there. He's not going to be the deeper player that we need, but he is at least somebody who will get the ball back quickly and he will release it effectively and he can hold it really well. So you're getting the best of both in that sense. So the perfect midfield you've got there is Ugarte, Menu, and Fernandes. That's probably your best midfield. But I wouldn't play as a 2-1. I would drop Fernandes now into an 8 role, and I would play just the three of them, and I just play Ugarte sitting in front on his own, and you just got Menu and Fernandes going forward themselves. I think Fernandes, as much as he is an amazing number 10, and he does it so much, and it really does annoy me, but it only makes more sense if you drop him back, is how far he has to run back. He likes to build the ball into further advanced areas of the field. I actually think now playing Fernandes as more of an 8 than a 10 might actually be good for him and also sustain him more, especially at the top level, and it will prove certain arguments about him as well, where people only judge him on his numbers and they judge him by how many moans he has at the referee per game. I would actually like him to be judged on his all-round basis that he is exceptional at. Like, he's a brilliant tackler of the ball. He's a very good passer. It could disprove my point as well that I said earlier on, but we need a player who's good deep from deeper positions. Let Menu do all the running. Let Fernandes just play the ball deep. He's got a good passing range to him as well. He's got a good vision of the ball. And if he needs to, he can run in deep and score. He's got that in his locker. So I think the variety is using his fullest strengths. That's exactly what I would go for. I would draw him back. And Trevor made a fair comment there about he's an offensive player, not defensive. But he kind of is defensive, because look at last season. Look at the season before. He was playing right back at times on his own. Like, he actually went those positions to recover the ball. And he done 60, 70-yard passes upfield. He ran for the ball as well that he had just played. He went and played at centre back sometimes, free at the back, and allowed Casemiro to bomb forward as well. Look at all the Casemiro goals that he got 2 seasons ago. Bruno Fernandes was actually at centre half for most of those goals, except the corners. So you need to look at the actual fact is, he may not be defensive, that he's a purebred defensive player, but he does work for you in a defensive position if you ask him to. In his first ever game at Man United, by the way, when we played Wolves, where did he finish as well at the end of the game? Defensive midfield.
Look, like, I was going to ask about the fact that obviously Ugarte will be coming in to cover Casemiro's work as a defensive midfielder. So I can't remember where I heard it, but someone was saying, like, are you going to lose out on what you had in Casemiro being able to thread those through balls through the lines when you bring in someone like Ugarte, or is that mistaken?
No. The funny thing is, and if you actually look at it, Casemiro's best performances in any football shirt was when he was playing alongside Toni Kroos and Luka Modric. But if you actually look at how he was playing it, yes, he was playing as the holding role, but those two were so fundamentally good with the ball that they could stay back if they wanted to. He was actually the furthest advanced player in his final season at Real Madrid. So they were effectively playing as 2 defensive midfielders, even though he was the one doing that job. And he was the one going forward because he wanted to express himself. I think the easiest thing for United is if you've got 2 midfielders in the field who are good with the ball, who are mobile, who can pick a pass, Casemiro will fundamentally want to kill you anyway, because that seems to be his nature. If that's what he wants to do, have 2 players that can keep the ball, have got the legs, just let him go for it. If he's gassed after that, then so be it. But I guarantee he's going to score.
That's fair, yeah. No,
just use a player to his strengths. He doesn't have to play every single game now. But I was contemplating, should we sell him or not? I actually wouldn't sell him now. I would actually keep him. I think right now Ugarte should not be tutoring Toby Collier. I think Ugarte should be working closely with Kobe Mainoo. I think Casemiro effectively should be tutoring Toby Collier. I think Toby Collier is more aggressive than Kobe Mainoo is. I think Kobe Mainoo is a more controlled, smarter player with the ball. And I think if you look at it, I think Collier is the long-term natural sort for Casemiro. And then you can just keep Ugarte beside Mainoo. That's exactly what I would do.
That's a very interesting way to put it. And I suppose, not to jump ahead of ourselves, because we are only 1 game into the season. Amy, I'll bring you back in here with how the transfer window has looked. We've signed Euro, fair enough. He had that unfortunate metatarsal injury against Arsenal pre-season. With our signing so far, with Predict, Euro, Mazraoui, and incoming Ugarte, have we better hopes going forward this season, or are we...
Xerxes.
Oh, Xerxes, my apologies. Have we better hope going forward as to how we're looking? Because, like, we all kind of said before the season started, another top 4 trophy just to maintain a level. Are we going to get ahead of ourselves, or are we going to put ourselves higher up than we expect, or are you still maintaining top 4 trophy?
It's hard to predict because you can't really go off the first game of the season. But don't get me wrong, the signings that we have made do seem very positive. Obviously, we're still, in a position where Lenny Orr has come in and he got injured. And then we signed Xerxes, and the second Xerxes was in, Highland got injured in pre-season. So we're in a position where, if he wasn't going to play Xerxes as a striker, we're back playing false 9. And we don't know if that's going to work against everybody. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I am optimistic that what I did see last Friday, that we will get top 4. I feel like towards the end of last season, maybe half of last season, we were quite lost in midfield. And going by what I seen on Friday, the midfield looked coached. And I hadn't seen that in a while. So, and all through summer, I feel like there was positivity through the club, and I'm hoping that goes straight through the season, to be honest. So I'm optimistic we'll get top 4, and I'm optimistic we'll either again win FA Cup or the Carabao Cup.
Mark, your expectations so far, or are you going to remain calm?
No, it's not so much based on. I just think it's how the club is managed and ran now versus our signings. I think they kind of mirror that, in terms of like what we want to do, and like what Reece touched on earlier on, what he sees, and the likes of obviously the youth players coming up, the likes of Collier and Harry and Mass. So like I like the way that there seems to be some level of a structure now, albeit we haven't seen the full fruition of it. Personally, I think we should be aiming for top 4. Because we should, we're Manchester United, we should be aiming for top 4 based on the position we're in now, and as well as that, again, like what Amy touched on, at least a trophy of some sort. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I'd like to see us do well, particularly in the Europa League. Based on obviously the last final we played in that, albeit I won't get too ahead of myself in regards to that.
Don't give me PTSD. Over
no, literally PTSD. But as well as that, there's such an influx of competitions that we're in that we should be breeding the likes of Collier in, and as well as that Harry and Mass, because it's going to be a long season like that. We're one game in. I'm not going to throw all my cards down, but I'd like to see us do relatively well throughout the year. Who wouldn't? What I mean by that is obviously gaining a top 4 position. And I think we have the squad and the capabilities of doing so, and also the coach and the backroom staff, squad ultimately. It's just going to be interesting over the next couple of weeks in regards to incomings and outgoings. Ugarte seems to be nailed down. I'm sick of hearing about that transfer, I'll be honest with you. I'm every day, and I know you love him, Darragh, in regards to Fabrizio, but if he shares one more thing about it, I'll go over to Italy and Rob has passed it on him, one or the other, sick of it.
Sorry,
no.
Me loving Fabrizio. I fucking come out and said how sick I am of him at this rate, so don't bother putting me as a fan of his. I'm so close to blocking him at this point.
I absolutely hate him anyway, so it's all right.
Is it because he's Italian?
I'm third Italian, you cheeky shit. I just hate the guy. He bores me to death. He wishes he was Ornstein.
Okay, Trevor, I have seen your comments. Don't worry. Yes, I have his what he on the dartboard. Yes.
No, he hasn't.
The darts are not actually on the board right now, but yes, I have. And as well, Trevor, don't give this woman a big head already. Come on, she's too big for this channel. Come, Trevor. You see, you have to give her a big head. Why?
Surely runs the joint. Now you want an RT? That's bold.
Trust me. Amy, I won't give you a big head saying this, but you will actually do a better job than anyone in RT at this point in time. Let's be perfectly honest there. So we will actually.
I just like how you said don't give her a big head, but you said it 4 times already.
Oh, I'm trying to think of other ways to express it fucking the same way. But anyway,
without choking.
Someone made a comment about Reece wearing 2 hats. Where was it? Oh, fuck, it's gone. Anyway, someone made a comment about 2 hats. So, anyway, we will actually look forward to the Brighton game. Not long to go, lads. It's an early kickoff. Hopefully, I can actually watch it. Keane actually gave me a great question to ask you, and I'm going to start with Amy on this one. Looking ahead to Brighton, Evan Ferguson's injuries were mismanaged by both Brighton and Ireland since October. Obviously, Brighton only sent him for surgery toward the end of last season, killing any possible momentum that he could have going toward the end of the season. So the question really is, do clubs have too much of a reliance on young players in their clubs nowadays when they bring forward into the first squad? Or do players like Ferguson just need to be used in a better environment?
A bit of both, I think. I think we have seen this at United before, where Rashford under Ollie, he was carrying an injury for months before anything was actually done about it. And I think when you're integrating young lads into the team, the last thing you want to do is overplay them. And I feel like the likes of Evan Ferguson probably was relied on too much. And I feel like also, we've brought Garnacho and Manu into the team now too, and both of them are starting majority of games.
Mm.
So, and I think at the moment, I think Ten Hag is relying on Manu in the midfield. So I feel like when you are integrating these players and they do prove to be as good as they are, managers start to rely on them. But at the end of the day, you're integrating them into a team. What age was Manu? 18, 17, 18?
Quite
At the
19, I
time?
think.
19, yeah.
Mm.
And they're playing non-stop. And I think that's probably what happened to Ferguson too.
Reece, want to come in on that one?
I think the worst thing is we've seen it before is certain players who like a busy schedule in contrast to players who may not, and it's the ones that like the busy schedule get burnt out the quickest. I think the best example is by far Alexis Sanchez when it comes to the Premier League, always has been. Like he went 5-6 years straight without a break and it destroyed him. He's luckily turned that around now. But I look at these younger players and there's so much a demand to be not just technically gifted, but to be very fit as well and to be a top professional. Some of these lads probably don't even know what that means. And if you try to explain it to them, their attention span will just drift off. And I think that's the worst thing as well. And there's always an advocacy for mental health these days. And I think there's, when it really is appropriate, mental health and advocacy as well should be for helping it. And there's people who have, like, say, like, they make a mistake and then the first thing they'll do is they'll blame it on that. And I think that's the thing as well, is who's telling the truth? Who do you believe? And then it stems as well when you see somebody beside them who's actually suffering and they're not going to say a word because even they'll be saying, going, they're just taking the mic, they even know what they're talking about. So I think there's a massive pull on not just professionalism or how you're feeling, but also the effect that you're going to get from who's telling you what to do, who is working with you, and also who's relying on you. And the biggest reliance at the end of the day is not just your teammates, it's the fan base that's watching. And we all know that we're each other's our own biggest critic. I'm my biggest critic, you're your biggest critic. End of the day, somebody could be watching this and they could claim to be our biggest critic, and they'll just say some random comment that makes no sense because they don't know who we are personally, but then they assume it. And that's what's the worst thing about professional football these days, is they get judged so quickly on one thing rather than the most important thing, and that's their performance. So I agree with Amy completely that Kobe Manu, for example, and Garnacho have relied heavily on the manager. But from what you can tell, they look like genuinely great people. And they look eager to prove themselves. But when you keep trying to prove yourself too much, that's when you get found out the most. Because you are overexposed.
I swear, you're probably reading the comments at the same time as me, Reece, but at the same time, Trevor kind of chimed in just as you made the point about young players make mistakes. Trevor, spot on. Young players need to be brought into the team slowly, as they will make mistakes. And I'm going to drift off United here. We can all safely say, because of Kwanzaa's mistake that led to Fernandez's goal against us at Old Trafford last year, I myself personally kind of say, well, Kwanzaa did this, Kwanzaa did that, but that's when you put it in that perspective, then say Kwanzaa's still young, he still has to be brought in slowly into that Liverpool team as well. So it is a valid point.
It's picking and choosing what fits them and where they go. The problem is once they've seen them play for the first time and they've had like a moment of magic, or they've had like a brilliant impact in a game, the one thing that you're going to get next is, when we're going to see them next. And I can remember one brilliant example, obviously, in recent years is Angel Gomez. Brilliant examples when he played the United in his first season, when he got brought from the youth team. Exciting player, quality on the ball. He had a brilliant debut. He was entertaining, and you didn't see him for months. Same way to Heath Chong. He's elsewhere now. I don't really care, but he was the same. Like, it's moments of madness and moments of brilliance, and you won't see them again for a long time unless you're extremely special. And obviously, Angel Gomez, we've seen what happened to him. He's extremely special, but gets knocked out. So I'm hoping he's all right now. But like, that's the that's the worst part to a young player. And when I mentioned Yamal earlier on, like Yamal had a brilliant season for Barcelona, he had an amazing Euros. But imagine he had the contrast if he was playing for a different club, not Barcelona. Imagine if it had been like a Valencia, for example, or a Sevilla, a brilliant moment of madness, and he had the same outcome as what I've just mentioned, like the Gomez, etc. You wouldn't see them again, but you'd be crying out for that kind of player. And that's what unfortunately the problem for Mainu and Garnacho now is you can never see them theoretically drop now or benched for 5-6 games in a row because we've seen what they can do. We love seeing what they can do, and they are excellent to watch. But fundamentally, they are relied on too much.
Because like another point actually nobody mentioned is when Manu actually kind of was integrated into the England squad. Call you what you want about Southgate and whatever.
Far too fast as well.
Oh yeah, like I was excited to see him. Like, even as an Irishman, I was excited to see him play for England. But then, obviously, was it the Iceland game? He made the mistake where, let's be honest, he was the only one who was actually tracking back as well for that goal, and he was the one who was pinpointed when. Oh, no, I can't even remember. I'd have to actually watch the goal back to see
just look at Manu pre-Euros and in the Euros. I'm pretty sure England didn't win a single game with Kobe Manu starting as well. Going at the Euros, like they just did not win. And it wasn't his fault, but he was the one getting blamed for all of it.
Exactly, yeah.
The reason they didn't win anything is because they were shit. But it's also that if you're going to play these young players, actually play the way they're expected to play and how they actually like to play. Instead of forcing them to do something that they physically cannot do.
Like, I suppose, like, Mark, if we hit the nail on the head here or review anything else, Dad, because I'm actually going to run out of things to say on this topic because we've kind of covered so much. So if you have anything to add, please feel free because I think we're kind of after adding so much into that one topic there.
I don't know. Like you've hit the nail on the head, but it's just a sign of the times, particularly obviously where any club is concerned, where they're after signing like a youth player that is just absolutely excelled in that position, and and then if a club ironically have a multitude of injuries, that's where you see, youth starting to gain some prosperity in a first team squad. And then you get like freak incidents where you have the likes of Garnacho and Mainu like absolutely tearing it up in their respective positions. And again, like I touched on, coupled with a multitude of injuries, then they stay in the squad. But then further on, the dynamic of a particular team being in such a level of competition, well then they're gonna be forced to play X amount of games, and that's ultimately where we're seeing such a level of burnout. Like the case in point that what Keane made initially was like, so you have obviously Evan Ferguson at Brighton. Evan Ferguson ultimately was playing like a preseason friendly at 14 against Chelsea's first team squad with Bohemians. So he has been in around the mist and mix, as per se, of like professional games since that age, and obviously is held in such a high regard. But it's nearly like a product of your own downfall when you do well, because ultimately he scored a hat-trick last year, and then all of a sudden, like figures are getting brandished about. It wasn't about his experience and longevity. Then it was about, okay, well, this fella is a cash cow for Brighton, and he's playing the majority of first team games. 100 million here, Chelsea are in from, United are in from, etc. But it's hard because we had the same thing with Brighton. Just speaking from an Irish perspective, where Aaron Connolly a couple of years ago, he done relatively well with them, and now all of a sudden he's like, is he back playing the Irish leagues, whatever it may be, after being released from Hull. It's just like it's sad, but as well as that, clubs, they're not really realistically looking after the player. They're it's a business, it's cash. Like particularly the lesser squads or lesser teams, they're if they have good youth and prospects there, they think of it's a long term. It's about if they're in the squad and they're doing relatively well and you're scoring goals again, like I said, case in point, Evan Ferguson. Well, then it's all about cash for Brighton. They're not like a withholding club; they're a selling club. Albeit like a very good structured club. But like that's what it is. It's modern day football, and we're not going to be able to get away from that. Everybody here would like to see Kobe Mainoo have like a very, very good break versus the two he got off, at the back end of the Euros, and then he's straight back into the first team squad at Man United. And people like nearly think it's ironic. You see people putting up like what's through their social medias. This is a pre-season. Like how unfit do you become in that period of time? What I'm trying to say is, my point is, it's just constant with them. It's sad, 60, 70 games per year. Yeah, I know, like, people can again reference the financial state of things. In other words, well, they get paid X amount. But again, from a mental health perspective, without your health, you have no wealth. So, whether that's physically or mentally. So that's unfortunately, it's just the times we're not going to be able to get away from it.
No, and you actually make a valid point there. And actually, just looking at the comments, my head is all over the place, lads. Reece, you've actually acknowledged a decent Celtic player, Matt O'Reilly, going to Brighton. Pause.
I actually like Matt O'Reilly, to be fair. I've wanted Man United to sign him for ages. Well, at least he's free from a shit football club, but it's kind of mental that he's actually now going to be at Brighton. And they're signing a quality fullback as well, Mourinho's first choice fullback.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, no doubt Mourinho was going to hold us for ransom for Kadioglu as well. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Kadioglu, yeah. Two good signings for Brighton. Like, I was hoping that we would have got Matt O'Reilly. I'm surprised no one else has snapped him up. Genuinely, I'm not surprised. Like, he is that good a player.
And Trevor, I never said I supported England. I'm just very much jealous of the team that they have.
Sorry, mate. We all know that you're Declan Rice in disguise. It's okay. We all know that. It's all right. It's cool. Like,
okay,
you're not.
And that's the list of fucking people I've been compared to Declan Rice. I once upon a time when my hair was long enough, when it was slicked back, it was Jack Grealish. The boys I played football with are calling me Matty Cash. Who in the fucking group chat is calling me Jonathan Morley?
Hang on a minute. Let's just rewind those names 1 second. Who compared you to Jack Grealish? Because Jack Grealish, because apparently Jack. Right, okay, because and this is not my opinion. This is just unanimous by females on social media. But apparently Jack Grealish is good looking. I don't see it with you. So I need to know that, like, what the comparison is to Jack Grealish. I need to know what the comparison is. Like, do you have good calves? I don't know.
Get one of these.
I shaved mine off earlier on the day, actually. Thank you.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Yeah, literally, I done it. Look at the show the other day. I clearly had one. You cheeky shit. I shaved mine off because I like, when I'm going somewhere, I like to be clean shaved. Thank you very much. It suits me. I like human.
I think it's probably just bum fluff.
Don't you start. I heard Jesse Lingard called. He wants his friendship back. And I will believe in that.
Say his name and he appears. And we move on to Brighton itself eventually. So, how are we feeling, lads? And I'll ask this question. Does Xerxes deserve the starting position tomorrow, or are we going to see the same of last week?
No.
Are we?
I'm going to go in the middle. I'm going to go in the middle and say no. Like, I thought his goal last week was brilliant against Fulham, and he took it really well. But apart from that, he didn't really do much else. Like, his movement
looked
was
lost in the game, didn't he?
Yeah, and that's not his fault. I mean, he is all summer long. Like, he clearly didn't look fit for Holland. That's why he never got a game. He didn't look remotely even interested to work as well, to even get on the field, which was quite alarming. Because if he had done enough, Ronald Koeman would have played him instead of Weghorst. That's not me saying Weghorst's a terrible player. I'm just saying, like, the fact is, like, if a player like Weghorst, who's well into his 30s, show more professionalism than you, and he's actually getting rewarded by getting to play, and he's actually scoring crucial goals for Holland, hence why they got to the semis of the Euros, whereas Xerxes didn't get anything, it makes you wonder. But I think the good thing for Xerxes as well is he's not fully match fit yet as well. I don't think we should be rushing him into that perspective. I actually like if we bring him off the bench. I'd give him a bit more time this time, but I give him more around it to play with. I don't think the players he had either side of him helped. I don't, even though like the goal came through like the Garnacho and Rashford link up. I don't think the two of them are the best for him. Unfortunately, Ahmad is not going to be involved, or shouldn't be involved because of the circumstances of his personal life. But even though he is a bit of a twat, I think if you're going to play Xerxes, I would probably play Sancho beside him. I think he might need more of a creative winger who will look to pass him the ball a bit more and allow Rashford, if Rashford's going to be beside him, for example, allow him to stretch it and try and get a goal. I think that's the best thing. But I think we should stick with what we did against Fulham, except don't play Mount and Fernandes at the same time. That's what I would do.
That's the problem, though. With the way that he's set up against Fulham, playing Mount and Fernandes in this false nine, does that, if you're not going to put Xerxes on from the start, are you saying Sancho from the start in that false nine, or what were you looking at us?
If you play Sancho from that sense, then yeah, I mean, he did do it in pre-season. He actually was not so bad. He actually had some decent minutes as well as a false nine during the pre-season, to be honest.
Now, here's the thing as well. Sancho could be on the way out because obviously the Athletic reporting earlier that Juve are in talks with him. Now, that
give us Chiesa.
Like, at first I was on board with getting Chiesa in a swap deal, but I'm there like, if no one's really gone in for Chiesa, considering how exciting he was a couple of years ago, is that a sign of something?
I don't think it is. It was just the injury that he had. He's still a quality player. I think if they're good,
I'm not denying this.
If Juventus are going to take Sancho of us, frankly, I would use that to get someone off them because I don't think we're necessarily going to spend the money if we sell him. I think they would just keep a hold of it. I don't think they would invest it. If we get rid of Sancho, I would take advantage. I would try and get Chiesa. You're replacing a creative winger with a creative winger.
That's fair, though, because I'm trying to think off the top of my head. If you're the fact you're saying there, is there anyone else we could take off them other than Case? Now, I understand they're saying take a creative winger for a creative winger, but is there anyone else in that Juve team that you could say, I'll take them instead? Because
Cambiasso, because he plays left back. I wouldn't mind Cambiasso, to be honest. I don't think you're going to get someone like a Locatelli. I don't think that'd be, even though he's a holding midfielder, I don't think we need another holding midfielder. But I don't know if there is anybody else theoretically from that Juve team that we would need. But Cambiasso's 21. And he does play at left back. You could build around that as well. It's up to them, really. He was going for about, I think he was quoted by Juventus around 30 million or so, so it's 10 million more than what Sancho would have been going for. If they offered, say, Cambiasso and say 15, 20 million or something for Sancho, I would take it.
Yeah, no, because I was going to say, like, there's no such thing as the straight swap deal anymore. It's inflated price for PSR purposes, as we've seen a couple of times over the course of the last
Needs to be, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, gone are the days of the straight swap, which is more simpler in reality, I think, anyway. If it's for balancing the books, fair enough. If they have price for inflated price, but you know that's gonna that's gonna come with one bad performance, and you're talking about a price tag again. So that's why I was there. Like, straight swap seems.
It's always the, no matter what goes wrong, it always goes back to price tag, and I'm like, that should be the most irrelevant conversation in professional football. Like, irrelevant at all, in my opinion, because it's not their fault that they're going for like Anthony, for example. Like, it's not his fault that Ajax sold him for 80 million.
Yeah,
like, it's Jadon Sancho's. It's not his fault that we spent 90 odd million on him from Dortmund. Like, they had good seasons at their respective clubs. They came to United and they were made to look like amateurs. That's not their fault. It's like Harry Maguire. You spent 80 million on a giant forehead, but he also has good passing capability. He's a brick. But in any knowledgeable football club, are you spending 80 million on Harry Maguire 5 years ago? No. Are you spending roughly 50 million on, because he's an English player who's playing for a team that had not long just won the Premier League and a certified top tier English player in our defence. Yeah, you'd spend about 50 million on Harry Maguire and it would be justified. 80 million isn't justified on him. You can't defend that at all. Is he going to be able to prove some of it back? Yes. He did in his first season. The second season, some of it. His third and fourth seasons.
Right off.
Yeah. He's done decent to start the season. Will he maintain that throughout? No. Should he be expected to? No.
No.
But I think he'll be decent for 10 to 15 games throughout the season when we really need it. And I wouldn't be against that, even though I don't rate him at all. I wouldn't mind him for 10 to 15 games where he can just be there. So I think if you're going to use price tags on someone, then that just shows that you're not willing to have a more involved conversation. And I think it's like Rasmus Højlund's another perfect example. Oh, we might have spent 80 million on him. They've overspent. No. Atalanta wanted 80 million for somebody who was the 5th highest scoring teenager in the world last year. That's not his fault. That's what they wanted. The problem is we just overspent. We could have gotten for a little bit less if we had been a little bit more controlling. Do we? No. Oh, I've seen the chat and I'm quite liking this. I love this. This is just rewind 55 minutes ago, and it's pretty much what I said. So I'm quite happy with that. But that's where it is. I think if you're gonna realistically talk price tags on someone, it's got to be someone who's absolutely genuinely dreadful, like Romelu Lukaku. Not someone like a Højlund. Not someone who. Yeah, genuinely dreadful. Not someone who is going to, not even a Paul Pogba, who we spent 90 million on. Because even though he wasn't great, there was moments where he actually proved the worth for him. Because he won us the Europa League. He was credible for the League Cup as well. He was credible getting us a top 2 finish as well. He justified himself by getting a World Cup trophy as well long before we signed him. So that already proves why we spent 90 million on him. But it just doesn't work out at a football club. That's just how it is. But you should not be needing to use price tags to justify a player. Some of the price tags, like a £30 million fee for Van de Beek, is great because Mark loves him, but he's still a ghost. Or you can have but that isn't what you're judged on. You're judged on performance. And that's why they'll never be able to prove their price tags back. So it makes no difference discussing price tags about any player. It means fuck all.
And on that one, Mark, anything that have you an idea to how you would want the team to set up for tomorrow?
I don't see much off. Like, I know, obviously, Ahmed, unfortunately, he's after having a bereavement. Poor mother passing away, but I don't see much off difference in regards to last week's starting lineup. I don't know who would play in that position. I don't see Sancho being in the squad in general. Based off.
I was going to say, would you see Garnacho playing on the right side as a result and Rashford down the left?
Yeah, because I think that's where he, realistically, Rashford doesn't want to play over to the right hand side, does he?
No.
Second of all, I don't see him playing through the middle, so I think he'll do the exact same. And I get what Reece was saying in regards to Bruno shouldn't. He's nearly he's have to be played in regards to a false nine as per se. But Mount, like what Amy had touched on earlier on, done a job in regards to his work rate, and that kind of takes the pressure off Bruno because realistically, he was the one doing our work. Not to suggest that Rashford or Garnacho, based on the last season's performances, weren't doing in regards to their work rate. Obviously, is improved, particularly Rashford's. However, I just didn't think he was good enough last week. Again, I know I touched on the group, but just personally, I didn't think he was good enough. However, he will start tomorrow. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't. Like I said, I don't see much off it. He'll start with the two fullbacks again. I don't see Maguire getting dropped whatsoever because again, he was probably our best player last week. And again, obviously Martinez will start beside him, providing there's no injuries we don't realistically know about. I don't see much off it whatsoever. Because I don't think he can. The team as a whole, albeit again, like I said at the start of the pod, that we need to improve. I mean, there will be improvement throughout. However, tomorrow again is a stern test for us away to a Brighton team. They're only off the back of a 3-0 win, albeit against a very poor side in Everton to their demise. So tomorrow's a completely different test to a Fulham side at home.
Actually, I was just seeing comments here. Keane's after drawing his line of opinion. Amy, I don't actually disagree with this team. Go for Keane.
I actually do. I actually disagree a little bit on this.
So do I.
Get
Even
Amy's
where though?
opinion.
Sorry.
I actually think there's one player in this team we actually don't need, and actually, funnily enough, is Darragh. I don't like. Yeah, I actually would keep Maguire in the team. I actually agree with Mark, but I would actually shift Martinez to left back, and I would play Delete Maguire at centre half.
See, I don't like. I suppose it's probably not his most natural position. Fair enough, but like he said after the.
I prefer a right, left. I prefer that, like the natural footing of that for a position. But and I rate Darragh. I like Darragh. But when you're looking at it, last week was good to play them both, considering the two wingers that Fulham had.
Yeah,
they were going to get in behind. I think for this game in particular, it may be better just to have a more comfortable defender just sitting on one position just in case a player breaks in. I think that might be a little bit better. It might be smarter for Ten Hag as well, because it'll still allow Martinez to tuck in and play as a back three when we progress the ball, because that's all we ever do. We just like to progress in a free so a player can get forward. But it also means Rawi can get forward as well and express himself, because he was excellent last week. He was by far our best player in the field, in my opinion. But I like the rest of the choices, to be fair. If, like I'm saying, I'm hoping Ahmad is not involved tomorrow. I certainly hope he's not. But if he is, then he'll deliver a good performance for his mum, which is how you should do it. It's a good way to pay homage to someone. But if he's not involved, then I would play Mount on the right. I'd play Fernandes through. I'd play Fernandes through the middle. I'd play Garnacho on the left, and I'd play Rashford up front.
I was going to say Keane's after adding the point. It's here most. Where is this? Here we go. That if you play Martin as the left back, Rashford's redundant because there's no overlaps and underlaps. So that's probably why you're.
See, to be fair, I think he'd only be redundant if he doesn't make himself open. He wouldn't make himself open enough to do that. At least for the middle, he's actually up against the right centre-back partnership where he is in full control. Because he's going to get through them quite easily. And I'm not saying that to undermine the Brighton centre-backs, but he has got the advantage that he's younger, he's faster, he's got more mobility, and he's going to have at least 10 to 15 yards on him already. And if he's got the likes of, say, a Mount and Garnacho flanking him, he's already got added pace as well. He only needs one or two passes from either of them or Fernandes, and he's going to score. It's the only time I would say playing through the middle, maybe a few times throughout the rest of the season. But if Xerxes doesn't start tomorrow, I would start Rashford through the middle.
That's what we're looking at. And actually, lads, I wanted to come to this comment from Keane because I'm not going to bother with the score prediction because I'm useless at score predictions. I want to end on one thing about a United legend, or as Keane puts it here.
I wanted to hear what Amy was going to say about that lineup as well, actually.
Oh, sorry, I'll pop it after a second. Amy, sorry, my apologies. Do you have any on Reece's way of talking?
I agree with Mark. I don't think he's going to drop Maguire. So I don't think till it starts. But I think going by what Ten Hag has gone, in the previous years, I don't think he's going to change it up. I think he's going to go with what he played the last day. In terms of Xerxes, considering he wasn't fully fit through summer, I would probably bring him in stages. So definitely in off the bench would be beneficial to him. But yeah, I don't see him changing up from the last day.
That's fair enough. And because I just saw it and I said I'm not finishing this podcast without bringing it up. Keane, you're going to have to light me off after this. Who has actually said this? Because a certain Irish football podcast said Roy Keane is a United legend, but not an Irish legend. Thoughts from the Irish lads, but also Keane as Reece. I keep calling him Keane. My apologies. Reece as a neutral. I'm not the biggest fan of this opinion. Like, obviously, don't get me wrong.
You're all Irish. I'll let you guys go first.
Like, for me, people will judge him off Saipan 2002. We were all fucking bobbers at this point. So, anyone who was older than us probably have better expertise in talking about it. But to me, just because at the end of the day, he was Irish captain, he was a proper leader, club and country. To me, he is an Irish legend. Obviously, in my opinion, he'd be higher up as a United legend than he would be as as United legend rather than an Irish legend. Mark, have you any thought on that? Because this one will cause some debate, I feel.
I think he's going to be in like much higher stead from a Manchester United perspective, but to class him as the opposite from an Irish perspective I think it's a throwaway comment. Like, realistically, we had such a good nucleus of players there and done relatively well in the World Cup. But again, he'd be judging the fact that he wasn't there in Saipan. But realistically, like, he's one of the best players we've ever produced. And again, like, just in regards to that, I touch on it, like, Ireland don't have a defined right to qualify for any tournament, and I would, like, again, people class that as a negative comment, but realistically, we've 7 million people in the country. If we qualify for the World Cup, like, this is absolutely unreal, like, you know what I mean? Like, for any major tournament. So, you know, he was forefront to the likes of, you know, 94, and obviously, you know, throughout the, like, 2002, etc. He was forefront in them squads. So he is absolutely an Irish legend. You know, realistically, that comment probably comes from, well, maybe we could have done more. No, we couldn't have, you know. And again, people will downplay it. They'll say, oh yeah, Manchester United legend, but not an Irish legend as a whole, playing you know, under numerous managers who we obviously fell out with. But realistically, you know, he is you know, nothing short an absolute Irish legend. I'm not just saying it because I'm a Manchester United fan. Majority of people who realistically come out with throwaway comments like this are Liverpool fans, you know.
Oh, massively. Amy, I'd say you're probably singing off the same hymn sheet as all of us anyway.
Yeah, to be honest, I have nothing more to add to that, but that comment is just ridiculous. And to be honest, it would only come from Liverpool fans.
Of course, Morley and Murphy. Who else would it be? Laurel and Hardy, as I'll call them. But anyway, Reece, you are the neutral in all of us here. Your thoughts on that?
I don't see where the comment could be stemmed from, you know? Like, let alone being, obviously those guys are Liverpool fans, but they're also Irish. I'd love to actually know why specifically they think he's not an Ireland legend. Like, I don't see the justification for it. That's like, it'd be like coming out, what's next? They're going to come out and say Dennis Irwin's not an Ireland legend. Like, it makes no sense. And it wouldn't surprise me. But that just shows their bias. I think it's purely the bias of who he played for, and for fact that he's not as stern on other clubs as he is maybe United, but he's also very fair for who he speaks on. I'm very surprised that they've commented he's not an Ireland legend. Like, is he the best Irish player? No. Is he the most honest Irish player? Yeah, probably. I don't see how you can't justify not calling him an Irish legend at all. I absolutely think he is.
And I think it's here, yeah. Like you said,
I think it's demeaning.
I thought Roy Keane in Ireland was regarded as royalty. To us, he is. Well, sorry. Trevor, remember, he's from the real capital of County Cork. You hear that, Mark? The real capital. You get this?
I'd like to
listen. People from Dublin always get a bad rap. You know, this is what it stems from. Realistically, Dublin is the capital for a reason. But I do get it. We're all bet up our own holes and everything like that. I get people's narrative around Dublin people. However, they're only the Dublin people that have money. Remember that.
He's gone middle class there. I quite like that. I'll give him that. He's made a middle class comment. I quite like this guy.
Do you know what as well? Oh, just to touch on like them two lads, I'm not going to reference their names because
to be fair, one's bald, one's ginger, and the other's just and them. So
Yeah.
they make no difference. Like,
But the reason why is because they get people to talk about this. You know, this is such a throwaway comment. It's like, Jesus, like people are going to talk about this because they're fucking gobshites. But anyway, I won't touch on it because. But in fairness,
There
your
is one
man
people,
Marley,
though.
like he's after losing a shitload away. Fair play to him, bit of respect there. But the other chap should follow suit, and you know.
I don't know what I don't pay attention, but see when you look at it, and this is the funny thing. I guarantee it, right? That obviously he was born in Ireland, but I guarantee you that they would say someone like a John Aldridge is a bigger legend for Ireland than Roy Keane, even though that he was no, even though he was born in Liverpool.
Yeah,
like
guaranteed.
that's their. For them, a real Irish legend is somebody who wasn't even born in the fucking country.
Yeah,
be
Jason McAteer next, you know, because he actually went Saipan, you know.
He can run and jump somewhere. I don't care. I absolutely hate the prick. Like he's an absolute winch fest. But if you seriously believe that Roy Keane is not an Irish legend, just actually prove why. I would actually like to see them try and justify it because I can't. There's nothing to say that he isn't. I think that's a throwaway comment, as you said, Mark, just to get clicks and just get attention. Because if you genuinely believe that, then it's weird. Because when was the last time, and this is not coming from me because obviously I'm Scottish, I'm just being genuinely honest here. When was the last time Ireland were in a World Cup? Funnily enough, I'm pretty sure he was playing.
It actually was, yeah. Because we've been only in Euro since.
Exactly. So,
but see, here's the thing.
I don't get it. You know, it's a throwaway bollock comment by them. You know, that is just purely to get attention. It is a weird joke, and it's not even a funny joke.
Like I would say this much: like we as a nation, we're not meant to be the best because we're only a small little country. Like
no, you're just the funniest.
We're great crack. What can we say? But no, like honestly,
you're welcome.
When we go to the likes of the Euros and when we've gone to the World Cup, we don't expect to do that well. But see, this is the thing. Like I've had this with some of my English mates, and they've said, "Oh yeah, pipe down. You're only you're only an Irish country," and they're like, "Well, we expect to do shit. We're not expecting to do great things.
Yeah,
we're here for the crack, as I said."
The irony is, at any tournament you guys have been at any tournament we've been at ourselves, ironically, the fans that are always labelled the best ones are Scottish and Irish for a reason. We may be shit everything, but we are by far the best fans in the world.
Guaranteed.
Like,
guaranteed.
Prove that point to them. And at least we haven't been relegated from anything, whereas one country has.
Yeah, we will go there. But look, on that note, and on that
enjoy playing them next month.
Oh, don't start Lee Carl's.
Jude Bellingham's injured now, so.
Oh, is it? Oh, you'll win then. You'll win then. They've got no creative. They've got no creative spark. Then you should win that then.
Well, we'll see about that one. And on that bombshell, lads, it is time to end and wrap.
Oh, and I'm going 3-0 United tomorrow.
Ambitious, considering we're away. Screw it. I said I was going to give one. I'll give one. 2-1 United. Screw it, lads. Anyone's ahead?
So out of the first 3 games, I thought this would be the game that we'd drop points. I don't think we'll lose, but I'm saying 1-1.
Okay. And
not
Mark,
bad shout.
I won't be overly negative. I do hope and wish and think that we'll get a win tomorrow. I'll go relatively low, like I said 2-0 last week, and I should have been a Rashford, or sorry, if Garnacho had to put that away. But I'm gonna say 1-0 tomorrow.
That's fair.
I normally go for horrible comments and natural scorelines, but I'm trying a new leaf. I'm trying a new attitude. So that's why I went 3-0, not 5. Yeah, I know he's adopted.
And on that note, lads, thanks for one hell of a show. We need to get this. We need to get the 4 of us on more often because this has been
13.
I won't say
He's getting killed. He's getting killed in this chat.
Oh, I can guarantee it. Look, lads, at the end of the day, we've had the crack. We've had our fair fun. Just enjoy ourselves. This show is much better now. Oh my god. Oh, I'm not even going to highlight that one. Lads, Good night. Thanks for everyone who's been in the comments. You've been great crack. Hopefully you join us for the review after the show with Mark and Stu. And I will bid you all good night. Guys, thanks for being here.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks all.